Everyone, you join us about 2 miles in to our little recovery ride, and today we're talking about the Canyon Endurace Disc 8, and this is the aluminum one, not the carbon fiber one. So on this you have about 9.22 kilograms, or right around 20 pounds. Aluminum frame, Shimano 105. I think what was specified on Canyon's website was you had a different wheel set than what was actually sent over. Bear with me because there's quite a bit of headwinds on the way out of this ride here. So I've had this bike for 2 years now, and wanted to give you my thoughts on the bike overall. So I had a few options, really many options to choose from, but I was trying to choose a relatively budget-friendly item and something that didn't break the bank. So something below $2,000 essentially. So the main part there was, trying to figure out what my options were, what I wanted to use the bike for, different things like that. So my actual requirements were pretty wide. I wanted the bike to be used kind of for everything. So that was sort of the main purpose, was upgrading to disc brakes was the first thing. That was kind of the main thing. But other than that, I wanted it to have a wide variance of tires that I can put in. So this one specifies that the max tire width that I can put in, or they approve for, is 35 millimeters. And I've proven that more can fit in, but you have an issue with clearing the mechanical wiring of the front derailleur. That's kind of the main issue. But I also wanted a bike that was blue, relatively light, and performance oriented. I wanted something that could do crit races, which was one of the events that I wanted to get into. If you haven't seen my lovely crit races, which I suffer through the entire time, then go ahead and watch that. And I also showed some of the comparisons of the bikes that I was looking at, like the Laufsegler. Yeah, just overall what I was expecting from the bike. So 2 years later, what do I think now? Pros and cons. So I think we'll start off with the pros. I think the first thing is Shimano 105 is quite good. I think the one thing that I noticed, at least on the trails here, is that there's a lot of chain whip or chain slap because there's no clutch in the Shimano 105 gear set. So that's more just changing the derailleur. So I might end up changing that out. I think the other thing is the looks and feel. And I think there's no denying it. Objectively, this is a nice looking bike. You may or may not like the blue. I love the blue. Get a lot of comments on the blue. So I like the blue.
I just wanted to throw this in here real quick because another thing is just the overall frame is designed very well. I do like the way that the welds are put together. It actually looks pretty seamless. When I first opened it, I actually thought, is this a carbon fiber bike? And then you start tinging it and actually touching some of the materials and tapping it, and you can tell that from the sound that is definitely an aluminum bike. So that's also something that was really nice as well, is that, yeah, just the frame, you get a carbon fork, you get a carbon seat post, aluminum handlebars, and overall the bike is very comfortable. So that is also something that was really nice.
Moving on to the performance aspects of it, I think this is per rider basis. I'm not particularly fast rider and I'm not particularly slow, but we do the novice crit races and it seems to handle itself properly well. Hold speed with the Fulcrum DB 900 or 900 DB race wheel set. So haven't really had particular issues with that. The Canyon people were nice enough to give me a bit of a refund on some of the differences between the wheel sets. That was nice. I think overall performance wise it's done pretty well. I do wish the handlebars were a bit narrower or that we can customize them at purchase, but that's not really the way that websites work with bypassing bike shops. So yeah, overall I think the compliance is quite good. I don't really have any particular issues with, like, we're going over some pretty rough ground here with like vibrations and stuff like that, but again, I'm used to aluminum bikes and also I'm pretty light, so you know, I don't really have any qualms about that. And I think that again is more of a subjective thing. I don't think riding these bikes back to back that I'm gonna feel a huge difference. Like, I've compared back to back with my steel frame bike, and one can say, oh well, that's an older steel frame, the technology has become a lot better, but overall the sizing aspects of it and the fit all look the same. So I don't really think there's as much of a difference as all these companies are marketing it to be out. Coming up on your left. Thank you. I have pretty good things to say about it. No creaks and rattles really. I think the only creaks and rattles are from my pedals, which are my fault for not servicing them earlier. The brakes have been quite good. Again, part of the Shimano part set, wheel set, or parts bin with the Shimano discs and the brakes as well. So that all has been quite good. I think I really do like the toolless wheel set with the through axle, because I love quick release, but I hate having to bring out a tool for every time I need to take out my front wheel. That's super annoying. There's a lot of good things to say about this. I love the price, you know, for, I think on the website now it's like $1,800, but I bought this for $1,600 and they gave me $150 back. So it was more like $1,450 that I paid for the bike outright. I think overall it was a great deal. I can't really complain about what I expected, what I got. So I was talking a little bit about the frame, and I think I really like the frame being not super aero, but I like the down tube, which is super wide. So I had like a blocker for mud on my steel bike, and it turns out the fact that this seat tube, or the not seat tube, but the down tube is so wide that it blocks a lot of the kick up from a lot of the gravel bits and all of the bits that come off of like from the tires shooting up random stuff. And then also they put tape on the frame too, which is a little bit shiny for the matte paint. So it's kind of annoying because you can see the differences between the two, but it does help on spots where the cabling is rubbing and where chain would whip back and forth to protect the frame. You know, some of the things that Canyon promised with the bike and didn't actually deliver it with the bike, that's probably my one gripe with it. So I guess that leads us into the cons. So that's probably first off, you know, Canyon providing a wheel set or components or what have you, and actually sending them with those particular components. You should not really do that. And then when I asked them what the components were, they didn't know. So that was kind of a big issue that I saw. The tires that came with this are also not tubeless ready. So the whole bike with the wheels and the tires were supposed to come tubeless ready, but they did not. They did not send any tape. They did not send tubeless tires, and The wheel set probably can be tubeless, but that's probably primary gripes. And it's more to do with like Canyon and them fulfilling their promise, not necessarily with what was sent to me. I think what was sent is quite good for the money, but clearly cost cutting based on what they have available. So pretty annoying from that perspective. I wish it had more clearance. That's always a wish of mine. The saddle was pretty sticky. Like it does have a pressure relief channel, which is nice, and it is quite wide, which I wish it was a bit narrower. This saddle, the black saddle, which is a nice looking one, but it was really sticky, so you couldn't slide up and back, like back and forth, which some people may like actually. I don't know. You know, my preference is that I want to be able to slide a little bit, but it kind of stuck your butt like a little bit rubberish. Whereas this one kind of feels more leathery, so it's a little bit easier to move back and forth. So overall, I mean, it's a pretty good saddle, but you know, I just wish it was a different material that was easier to move back and forth on. And then the handlebars, I wish the handlebars were a little bit narrower. And I guess on the pro side, the bar tape is quite good too. I think that was something that's a little bit more rubbery and pretty grippy. So that's not something that I'm used to. Mine's typically more corky and more like, it's more absorbing, and it also feels more like a little bit of cloth bit, if you know what the cork feels like. And then I'd say the covers that they put on the axles, I'm not sure why that actually is there. It did end up making me, and this is more of a user error than anything else, but stripping out the mounts for the through axle, and I was a bit afraid. I made a video on this and how to fix it and rethread it, different things like that. So that was kind of annoying to have to deal with. The cable routing is, you know, it's out on the exterior for a bit and then it's internally routed, but it kind of seems pointless to have it internally routed because the wires still stick out a bit. So I don't particularly like that. I don't know if this is the case for most new bikes, but the handlebars are very, very wide. My old handlebars were a little bit thinner, and I think that's just with the new style and having a bit better grip, I think. But again, with the tires and what have you, you know, everything is just okay. Not the greatest, you know, and Canyon making sure that they do right by their customers and sending you what you expect on their site. But other than that, like, everything has been quite good. Haven't really had any complaints in the last 2 years. Haven't done a ton of maintenance to it either. One of the negatives of just Canyon in general is that they do use proprietary parts. Now, it does seem that, and I did this for a couple rear derailleur hangers. I bought a few of them just in case off of AliExpress, but you know, you can only really find some parts on their website, and if the bike gets obsoleted, they may or may not have those parts anymore. So that's extremely frustrating that it's not something that's universal. But again, I know some bike brands do this. You know, it's a cost cut. It's also a way for them to make money in service. So, you know, that's kind of up in the air, but that's kind of frustrating to me. Some of the things that are miscellaneous maybe are the position of the bike. I know it's called an Endurace, so they kind of split it in between gravel bike and a road bike, and it's a more comfortable position. The main thing that I noticed when riding the bike was that the stem was super high. And again, not a particularly problematic thing. It's more just the frame geometry and how they have you set up. The tube is, you know, angled upwards, kind of like a female bike, but I do like that to get you a more comfortable position. So that is something that's nice. Coming up on you. Thank you. Talking about conclusions, recommendations, what have you. I think, honestly, for my perspective, I've had an aluminum bike all the years that I've been riding bikes. And I think the one thing that I would just change up is what type of frame that I have. Because since I've had an aluminum frame, I don't really know what it's like to ride full time with titanium or steel or carbon fiber. So I think that's something that I should have taken a look at and tested out. I did test out the Lauf Segla, and it was a nice bike. I had a problem with the rear derailleur and the fact that, you know, it was not a toolless through axle. That was super annoying to me. Again, not a huge issue, but annoying, something annoying to me. Yeah, I would have probably changed my mind and go with like a titanium bike, because I was really looking for something that would just stand the test of time, would last forever. And I'm not saying that this bike won't last a very long time. Essentially, if I don't crash it or drop it a lot, that sort of thing, we won't really have any issues. So that's more on the user than anything else. But something like steel, something like titanium, you know, with lifetime warranties, it is something that is quite appealing in the way that, you know, you don't really have to worry about the brittleness of the product like carbon fiber. I'd just be worried that the frame is slowly cracking, or if I like sweat on it or something like that. But, you know, aluminum's nicer because, you know, it's resistant to rust for the most part. And, you know, titanium also something that a little bit more durable. So I think that's probably the one thing that I wish I looked at, was the titanium frame. That was like, you know, $3,000 to $4,000. But again, you know, is it really worth the double price tag, even more double than price tag, maybe almost triple the price tag? No, I think this bike has its place in the market. It's a great value, you know, for 105 everything. You know, I don't think you can really compare it. There are some other brands that you can get maybe a less nice frame and something that doesn't resell as well. You know, that's the only regret that I have, but I think I'd have that with any bike that I bought. I think that's the way that market trends treat you, is that, you know, they want to make sure that you get the latest and greatest bike, and that you kind of always need a new bike. And you don't. And you certainly don't need like Ultegra or Endurace or anything like that. Any of the group sets nowadays are quite good. And I would definitely say Shimano 105 is quite good. You know, Encore of Endurace or anything like that does not really feel much different. And I don't really feel like there's any lag in shifting or anything like that. I think that's all that I have to say about the Canyon Endurace Disc 8 aluminum frame. I think it's a great bike, and I'll probably stick with this for quite some time. And unless I somehow get into gravel racing, which I probably should upgrade to a bike that has more clearance. You know, maybe I'll end up switching to a one by and switching to that Chinese wireless group set, because that's something that is very appealing to me. And this is obviously a frame set that you can upgrade to for that. But other than that, let me know in comments what you think, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.